So I wanted to make a couple of videos that are kind of like update closing videos. I have really changed over the past while, and the reason is just because of all that I've been through, and some of it has been really tough, but I've been able to reflect on things in, a new and more objective way, and this has been sort of increasing slowly as I've been challenged and as I sort of learn to appreciate the little things more and learn to try and get past very painful traumas and regrets and resentments, which, you know, I'm not totally through yet, but I'm getting there. And so, I mean, it's because, like, since I'm dealing with such profound health issues, I really want to be, like, healed and whole in the end. Like, I want to become that way so that I'm at peace and I'm enjoying what life I can. I'm not trying to sound sad. I'm actually kind of feeling at peace about what I'm saying in that way, but um, I need to change plans for real. But what made it worth it for me is the people whom it did help, the people whom were influenced positively and were able to come to their own realizations about things and resonate with the things that I was saying and reflecting on at the time. That really makes it worth it for me. So I've kept those ones up and labeled them Best of Girl Outside. When I look back at those videos, it's not like it wasn't me, but it's a different me than who I am today. Maybe not everyone's gonna like that. My friend list has been going down. Like, I released that album that I really, I wanted to do it for so long. I talked about it. I was afraid that it was too late because I was getting too sick, but I did it. I did it, and it was so cathartic, and I'm so happy with the result, and it definitely exhausted me. I went into a crash period after that. Now that the fighting is over for me, in terms of like proving my case and trying to get people to accept what is going on for me, that has kind of come to a close. It's obvious that I'm disabled now, especially with my mobility and stuff when I'm walking around, and how people see me struggle at home. It's not, it's inarguable. So, and then with my autism, like, I don't have a lot of energy to put on any kind of performance, so I just kind of prefer to let it go and be me. And sometimes that makes it hard to communicate, but um, people have said, like, don't switch channels, you have to start fresh and build everything up. But I feel like I am starting fresh anyway, so I still want advocacy to be part of what I do, but not in the way that I was doing it. And the way that I was doing it, it caused a lot of hurt. It was like right on the battleground, right in the, heart of the debate. And it's just too exhausting, and it feels kind of toxic to me at this point. I just want to experience more pleasure and joy as well. I'm still autistic. I mean, that doesn't change. I just have a different, bit more of an objective, mature view about it than I did before. And I'd like to share about some of that on my Live to Dream Diary videos. That's sort of where Live to Dream Diary is, where I sort of share more of my personal side. I'm living for this dream, of trying to be as happy as I can and heal in spite of having an incurable illness. And, so that's kind of what that means to me. But so I'm going to share a bit about that there, I guess. But I don't want to just talk about autism. The Girl Outside times were very intense, and so I'm glad that they helped people, and I have some strong supporters, and without them, without you guys, I wouldn't be here, because you guys helped get me through. So in retrospect, I really don't want to negate this, but paradoxically, there was a lot of hurt that happened, some of which came from within the autistic community, and that's partly because, not to excuse it, but it's partly because a lot of people are also dealing with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and people get at each other. But there's a lot of like identity politics and drama and people being intolerant of their varying opinions, other people's opinions, and a lot of like internalizing ableism and false pride kind of attitudes, us and they sort of thinking. Um, I got really into that stuff myself. Even though a little bit of that stuff is sort of necessary to assert, um, it just kind of got overboard. And a lot of people, not just me, were negatively affected. So, thing I found was that the extreme collectivism attitude of some of the groups was quite toxic and unhelpful. There were so many other things. There were a handful of people, actually quite a few people, though definitely not everyone, I'd like to emphasize that, who sort of, I feel like they felt entitled to my time and like demanded, like wrote me extremely long messages that I just didn't have the capacity or the energy to get through. Forks are like mental spoons, and I just didn't have the forks to deal with that when I was dealing with a worsening chronic illness, dealing with trying to be acknowledged and get care for that, being a mom. There were so many things I was dealing with on the home front that I wasn't always sharing all about because it was painful, and autistic people do have a hard time verbalizing trauma that is painful, verbalizing things that are overwhelming. So I was sharing about some of it, and I seemed like strong and assertive, but I was hiding my vulnerable side. And people further hurt me by getting angry with me that I couldn't get back to them, not taking into consideration what was going on in my home life, or the fact that in addition to my home life, I was putting energy into actually like writing blogs and making videos. And I was doing it partly to self-medicate. I'll be honest, I was doing it because I wanted to resonate with other people. I wanted people to come forward and say, yeah, that's happening to me too. So that I didn't feel alone, because I was being gaslit. I was being told in the system that I was full of shit and that I was, bad, and I was demanding and, attention seeking. It was good to resonate with people, but it wasn't pleasant when I got overwhelmed and beyond capacity. And part of that is my fault. I did overextend myself, and I didn't mean to, but I gave out the message maybe that I was more able to be available than I was, and I certainly held myself to an unrealistic standard and tried way too hard to be dutiful, and I ended up completely burning out. And when I did, some people were hurtful in the community and turned on me and said hurtful things like I'm not really autistic, I'm just being narcissistic for attention, pretending to be. I don't care about my subscribers because I don't get back to them. And it was extremely hurtful, because it's like, do you guys have any idea like what I'm dealing with on my plate here? And that wasn't everyone. And it was difficult for me to set boundaries because I come from parenting where I was an adult child and I wasn't allowed to, assert my boundaries, or I would be, the bad one, I would be the selfish one, and I'm sure a lot of us have experienced that. So I went into, this endeavor, this crusade as girl outside, kind of naive and raw in my own trauma. And so because of that, I endured a lot of further trauma, from various angles. And because of that, I can't bring myself to keep going on the same channel, even if people think that it's easier than starting anew and having to build a whole new following. But what I'm doing now is very different anyway, even though I'm still going to mention, in my diary videos, share a bit about autism. I'm definitely going to share about my experience with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and other things too. I don't want to just talk about those two things. But like, it's going to be more music music focused, music and art focused, and also including fun and fashion and stuff like that, because that stuff is lighter and it makes me happy. And you know, I always thought maybe I should just be dutiful and not be too shallow and deny myself of those things. But, I did deny myself of, the lighter side of things. And it does get depressing to, leave out the art and the light stuff and only focus on the deep philosophical. You can really do yourself in that way. You have to balance it. My energy is very precious and limited, and I want to save it for the most important stuff. And I still want that stuff to be meaningful, but because now that it's clear to me that I'm sick, and my truth is as clear as day to me, I really reflect on that and I go, you know what? Like, I am deserving. I was always deserving, and I was gaslit to question myself. Maybe I'm not sick. Maybe I am just attention seeking. Maybe I'm, you know, gaslighting is when people around you form opinions about you and that aren't really reflective of the real you. It's just their judgment, and it affects you. You take it in, you believe it, you let it affect your self-esteem, and that happened to me. I'm really feeling hopeful that my album will make some sales. I know it's really hard to sell music nowadays, but I'm not going to give up, and it's going to take a lot of my energy, which is why I can't, you know, get diverted with the activism too much and the identity politics and all that, because this is really about my future and my family's future. I need to get myself somehow into a better financial position so that I can support my complex health situation. And believe me, it's high maintenance. It's exhausting, and we're always, struggling with that. And improving our finances is obviously going to help a lot. And so I'm really going to focus on trying to sell my music and merch and my store and things like that. And you know, people might not like that change in me. I'm still gonna, share reflections, but I've already had friends drop off my list, like I said, because they are not happy that I am, that I've changed, that I've become more objective about things, that I have a desire to really take care of me and my family. I have a desire to grow, and that I'm, allowing myself to be ambitious in the way that I have been deep in my heart, but I didn't think I deserved to be, if that makes any sense. And some people, like, are taking that as being high on myself, and I don't think that's fair, because I think everyone has a right to feel like they deserve, something good out of life when they have given out. And it's one thing to feel entitled when you don't give back at all, but when you know, are earnest, when you do give back in the best ways you can, and you do put the work in, it's totally valid to believe that you deserve to get something back. And I didn't get that for a long time. It's felt like I was supposed to be a martyr to prove that I was a good person. And so, yeah, so people might not like it, but you know what? That's too bad for them, because I want to be happy and balanced. I want to be whole. I want to be balanced with the light stuff and the deep stuff. Part of this is because I am filled with grief and regret over the fact that when I was more well and when I had more spoons, meaning energy, and I was more able, I did not allow myself a lot of the stuff that I'm speaking of now inside. I didn't allow myself, and so it's on my bucket list to experience that, even though it's hard to experience it when you're in severe pain and fatigue. And I'm still determined to create that. And in order to create joy when you are that challenged and that faced with hardship, I really dress it up, really kind of be larger than life about it. It's kind of like replacing something bad, like drinking a big bottle of wine or taking a couple of Oxycontins, or, I'm trying to create a healthier way to escape my pain. When you need to have that kind of escape, that is also totally valid, and why not sort of have a win-win situation where it's a fun escape for me and it's also, you know, lucrative in some way as well as, positively helpful to others. To conclude, I'm leaving all the girl outside stuff up because I am proud of the good that was in it and, you know, um, the good that it did for some people. So I'm keeping up all the best of videos and organize them on a page on my bionicrose.org production site. And sometimes, I do get comments still, and I do respond, but um, I have put a disclaimer up to say that I'm not actually doing the girl outside stuff anymore, so I can maybe, you know, give brief responses and stuff, but I can't get like too into it. I don't want to take the best of it down because I do think it might continue to help people. So it's just not me anymore. It's a chapter that is passe, and I hope that people can be happy for me and respect that this is going to be like probably my last big chapter of my life, and I want it to be good, somehow. I'm determined for it to be good because I want to show people that you can, no matter what, especially my kids. I want them to see that I never gave up and that I evolved and found peace and joy in almost an impossible situation to find it.